Well, folks, it's my favorite part of the show. We actually get to bring in a guest to drop some knowledge on the Quiet Riot. Today we have Ricardo Reyes. He's Chief Science Officer and co-founder of Erudit. Welcome to the show, Ricardo.
Hey, guys. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Now, our audience is really a large spectrum of experiences. We have people who are just entry level, just beginning, all the way up to the really experienced CISOs and CTOs and that kind of thing. And they love to hear people's origin stories and their journey through tech. Can you take us through a journey through that? Can you take us through? Let's do that again. Can you take us through a journey through tech and actually what brought you to Erudit?
Sure. So I've been programming since 2001. So pretty much since the internet was just barely after the .com bubble and like figuring out what was going to happen. I come from Mexico. So we got the .com bubble like 10 years later. So when I was getting started, people were just finding out why they should have a website and what was the internet. And I would sell websites to anyone who let themselves to be sold a website. Like I sold to local gyms, local stores, try to get people to, there was no PayPal, there was no infrastructure for payment. So everything had to be still like, okay, you pay me on the bank, then take a photo, then send me the photo, and then I make your subscription go valid. Like, of course, some of the audience knows this Wild Wild West before there was any kind of payment infrastructure on the internet. But then I got started with AI. I was studying med school. Actually, I didn't plan to be an AI person at all. I started med school, actually. And how I got into artificial intelligence was trying to figure out how to put people prostheses on their backs. So a lot of people from all the work we all have to do, sit in a chair, looking like a shrimp every day. People get their bones, their spinal cords, and like their backbones really hurt and herniated. So a big problem for adult people is like all of these replacements. So I got started on AI on how to calculate the best these replacements, because this is not simple software. Like how do you calculate like how is a backbone gonna behave over gravity and while walking and while jumping? So then that's how I discovered AI, that this wasn't a simple program to write, like just an algorithm one after the other, but you had to actually have some observations of columns and then try to put that into software. So this was in 2011. And since then, I've been just working in fashion, in photography, in construction, in agriculture, in like satellite imaging. And then I met my current business partner, Alejandro, who is from Spain. And he's a psychologist and also an engineer. So we were just discussing like what was next, what was the biggest impact we could have in the current market 4 years ago. And we figured out that behind everything, there's always people. Like no matter what industry you're in, no matter how old are you, no matter your profession, you always have to interact and handle people. And the most difficult part of building a business, at least from my perspective, is always people. Like you can have the best idea, you can have all the money in the world, but you don't have the right people, or you don't know how to manage them or how to carry them to your goal. You're nothing. So then we got into the people business.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think we should definitely get into it. Now, obviously, the pandemic itself has pretty much turned everything upside down. What are you seeing some of the pressing challenges organizations are really facing today when it comes to whether it's employee well-being or even maybe productivity?
Not everyone knows how to make friends. And like at least in an office, you have a geographical excuse to make friends, or a timely based excuse, or like a project. But then when you are just hiring like crazy, let's say you're a startup, you just raised a Series A or a seed round, you start hiring people. Just like how do you introduce people to each other so they start to collaborate? How do you keep relationships between departments that are not based on projects? Because if a relationship is based on projects, you always have some kind of either collaboration or competition. And if it's collaboration, then you're on a good track, because then these people will try to understand each other and figure out the way together. But when you have teams that naturally compete with each other, let's say, for example, technology versus product, or product versus business, or this kind of departments that have no other way but to, they have a limiting constraint, either be time, either be budget. So they have always tension. It's very hard to make people understand each other and figure out each other outside of the work context. So then, I think that's like the main. We, for example, do get-togethers every 3 months for people to know each other in a more relaxed setting. Right. But of course, we are a 50 people company. We can still handle that. But let's say a 10,000 people company, like how do you even do that? And you have these multinational companies where you're a tiny person in one department of 100 departments, and you have to work with so many different people from so many different places. So just the natural development of human relationships has gotten more artificial, and you have to force it a little bit more. And forced relationships are not as good as relationships because you actually are naturally attracted toward people. So I think that's the main conflict.
I mean, I definitely agree that linking people together, especially with the remote work and people in both on-site and off-site, people parts of hybrid work, that kind of thing. I definitely think it's one of the big challenges of organizations today. And it does cause a lot of people working harder than they necessarily need to, and maybe even being less productive because you're just not connected to people, or have a buddy on another team or another partner team or that kind of thing to help out. What do you think that are some of the common strategies that some companies today are actually doing to tackle some of that?
Yeah, so this situation directly impacts engagement, right? Like a lot of people do engagement surveys, have engagement software. One of our main metrics in our software is engagement. And if you want to keep retention high, you need to keep engagement high, because historically, from my own experience and from what we've seen in the data, a lot of people maybe don't like their job, but they like their teammates and they like their boss and they stay. Or maybe they like the work, but then they have an awful team and then they leave to whoever is going to be in the same industry, but better opportunity to thrive in the social sphere. So for some people, not even if they're paying you €1 million per year, can think of staying on a team where they're being treated badly and where they go to their office feeling bad, or where they don't know anyone, especially when you're dealing, for example, with northern countries like Canada or Germany or Sweden, where people are used to being isolated.
That's true.
It's probably easier. But if you go to a more connected country, let's say like Spain or like Italy or like France, I think those countries are the ones having the hardest time, because these people are used to all the time hanging to have beers, hanging to have some lunch. And now there's not this natural context to connect with your coworkers. So then it's just some email or some Slack username or some people you tag somewhere, but you can't even put face to them. So I think engagement is having a very hard time since the COVID.
So a lot of people, obviously, they interact, especially when they're remote, they interact in specific ways, whether they're using Teams or Zoom or Slack or whatnot. So they have their communication channels for, persistent chat. They're using video, they're using email. So there's lots of communication channels that potentially have some signals to how they are doing, whether they are being productive or not, or whether they are, whether they are causing burnout. However, there are some, I would say, hidden signals that you don't necessarily get. What kind of data would you use from a person, unless it's a face-to-face kind of honest conversation about how things are going. Like what kind of information and signals are you using to potentially, identify these types of things?
Yeah, that's how we got started in our product, because we realized that, for example, when you run surveys, one is getting people to answer the service, which is already a hard.
Or honestly, like not only answer, but answer it honestly, right?
That's one, like getting people to answer, then getting people to answer honestly, like you said, then like getting the right questions, ask in a way that you don't bias people to answer or think you want them to answer something specific. So we realized that there was a lot to do with service. And then there's this phrase that someone told me at some point of my life, and I will never forget that the worst thing you can do is to optimize something that shouldn't be there in the first place. Right? Like you can find 1,000 ways to do service, but then what if you don't do service at all? Like what if you just remove the service factor and just try to figure out another way to do it? So then we thought, okay, people text each other all the time. Like, so then maybe by analyzing this text, we could figure out more about how they naturally interact. And of course, people always say like, oh, but what about my privacy, right? Like, what about like you, big brother, you're listening to me, you're like trying to figure out all of what I do. So we've been tackling that a lot of times as to make people understand that we don't want to listen to anyone's life. We just want to provide some kind of value to people as to create better engagement. So we've tried everything since just being inside of Slack, inside of Teams, trying to provide value also to the employee inside of Teams, try to anonymize everything, try to make it that you have to have a department of more than 3 people to see anyone's metrics. So we think there's a lot of value in just the natural communication of people in all of their communication channels, but let it be Slack, email, Zoom, Teams, whatever. But we're still trying to figure out how to deal with people understanding that it's not about trying to mess with their privacy, but rather like to try to channel all that they say into something that provides value to everyone. So I think that's the main question we have. And I think anyone who wants to get into the surveyless employee experience analysis software, the first that figures out how to do this is the one that's going to be a unicorn. And that's what we're trying to do.
And one more question. I want to bring my co-host back in. Now, obviously, we talk a lot about privacy on this show. And I do know that there's lots of services right out there. In fact, I've interacted with Glint before. It's an AI-empowered employee engagement platform. And it can sometimes raise some eyebrows. It can, list like somebody's listening or an AI is listening to what I'm saying or my chat messages or my emails, all to just really determine how I'm feeling. So it's almost as if, I kind of think of the movie Gattaca. Somebody's going to come in and just kind of create their own narrative so that they can basically hide behind their own narrative. So they don't have to let the AI know exactly how they are because they know it's there. So I guess the question to you is, how have companies and organizations really responded to this type of technology because of the fact of, kind of like Big Brother watching and determining how they feel?
Yeah, it's all about value. Like, I think like we interact with ChatGPT, for example, every day, and you tell them a lot of things and even copy paste code or copy paste emails or copy paste a lot of things just to have something done. But the value you get from it is worth enough as you to risk anything and don't even think about what you're copy pasting into it. That's what we're trying to figure out, like what's the value we can provide towards engagement, towards burnout, that can make people forget that we are listening to their messages, because it's not like we are actually listening anything. Like that's an AI doing it, right? Like I don't know what our users do. They're isolated into their own Amazon Web Services account. Like I don't even have access to their messages. Like I don't know what they're doing, right? But it's the feeling. As anything human, what matters is the feeling that people get about this kind of technology. So I think that's the biggest challenge on the employee experience sector. Like, how do people feel about AI being applied to knowing how they feel?
Right. Absolutely. Well, when we come back, we do want to talk more with Ricardo about AI for HR. I'm going to bring my co-host back in as well. But before we do, we want to thank another great sponsor of This Week in Enterprise Tech, and that's Collide. Collide is a device trust solution for companies with Okta, and they ensure that if a device isn't trusted or even secure, it can't log into your cloud applications. Now, if you work in a security or IT, or your company has Okta, this message is really for you. Have you noticed that in the past few years, the majority of data breaches are really hacks you read about and have something in common? Well, it's employees. That's right. Sometimes an employee's device gets hacked because of an unpatched software OS, and sometimes the employee leaves sensitive data really in an unsecured place. And it seems like every day a hacker breaks into or using credentials they fished from an employee. And the problem here isn't your end users, it's the solutions that are supposed to prevent these breaches, right? But it really doesn't have to be this way. Imagine a world where only secure devices can access your cloud apps. Now, in this world, phished credentials are useless to hackers, and you can manage every OS, including Linux, all from a single dashboard. Best of all, you can get employees to fix their own device security issues without creating more work for your IT team. Now, the good news is you don't have to imagine this world. You can just start using Collide. Visit collide.com/Twyet to book an on-demand demo today and see how it works for yourself. That's KOLIDE.com/Twyet. And we thank Collide for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Well, folks, we've been talking with Ricardo Reyes. He's the Chief Science Officer of Erudit, and we've talked a lot about AI and just how it can really help and assist organizations, especially uncovering people's burnout and productivity. But I do want to bring my co-host back in because I'm sure they have some thoughts and questions here as well. Curtis, I'll throw it to you first.
I appreciate it, Ricardo. It's been great listening to the conversation so far. One of the things I want to ask about, HR is a fairly broad topic. It covers many different aspects of the relationship between the company and the employee. And last week, when I was at the Splunk conference, they talked about, in their mind, the importance of having AI that is focused, that is, as they put it, has domain expertise. How important do you think that is? Is it better for a company to think about having multiple AI instances, each one devoted to a particular topic, rather than one giant enterprise AI that will do everything?
I love this topic because a lot of people have been focusing a lot on LLMs, like large language models. And that's heartbreaking because most of the advance of the generative AI revolution is about reinforcement learning from human feedback, like this algorithm how ChatGPT or any other natural language processing, modern natural language processing like Llama or these models are being trained, is to create something that is satisfying for humans, right? That's the metric. Like what they're measuring is this text that I'm producing satisfying for humans? Doesn't mean if it's true. It doesn't mean if it's accurate. It doesn't mean if it's logic. It's just like, is it satisfying? Can I trick a human into saying this is awesome text, right? And then what most models do is to memorize the information, like just to these billion parameters models we hear every day. What they're just doing is using 80% of these billion parameters to memorize the information. And then when you input some kind of prompt, they go through all these million things and then give you like a mixture of everything that came in between. This trick can also be achieved with a vector database or with a graph database, with a lot less parameters. The problem is that wouldn't be business for big tech. Like that wouldn't be business for the people trying to sell GPUs. So all this marvelous open sourcing everything that is up than 7 billion, it's all about selling GPUs. Like that's the business of AI nowadays. It's like, how can I get people to use more Microsoft Azure, more Google Cloud? And what OpenAI has been doing marvelously is that all the models that are 7 or 13B can run in a GPU that is cheaper than ChatGPT. But as soon as you get more than one GPU, ChatGPT is just cheaper than any other solution you can deploy to achieve the same accuracy. So eventually your CTO just figures out that they should just use OpenAI platform directly. So then that's one of the most brilliant things I've seen in my life anyone do. Like Microsoft's strategy is just brilliant because they never lose money. Like if anyone wants to run anything one GPU, they use Azure. If anything gets more expensive and their CTO is not as educated, they will still get money from GPUs, from running Falcon or from running anything big. And then if they figure out it's cheaper to use ChatGPT, they get money through OpenAI. So they never lose money. It's amazing how they are able to do so.
Well, I wanted to probe a little bit at one of the things you said, because you're right. We've all been talking since November of last year about generative AI, large language models. But there are far more different types of AI engines out there, some of which we've been using, neural networks and other things that we've been using for years. As you look at the AI landscape, do you see generative AI, large language models, just taking over, or do you think there's still a role for these other types of AI for doing things like automating processes rather than providing information to human beings?
It's similar to the question, should programmers run the world, or do we still need lawyers and architects and artists? Like, it's kind of the same kind of question, right? Like, of course, you need a mixture of experts, right? That's normally how this architecture is called in AI, right? Like, because the models are optimizing for something. There's some kind of loss function. There's some kind of optimization of some metric they're trying to do, whatever data set you give them. So there's no jack of all trades, just like there's no jack of all trades in humans, right? And if you want a jack of all trades, just as in humans, it would have to be a genius, right? So you will have to have a genius model that is just massive, but memory doesn't equate function. And the more parameters you have, the harder it is to connect new ideas or to connect new information, because the distance between the knowledge is so wide that just the architecture of the model doesn't let connect. Like it's so far away, the knowledge, that there's no way this model is gonna be able to collapse it into a new knowledge, into a new creation, into a new synthesis of the original signal, which is what humans do so nice. Like the magic of humans is that we receive so much input and compress it so good, and then our brains are so small that the ideas are so close that we're able to do marvelous things, because everything is all the time creating fusion. And then as the models go bigger, the harder it is for them to synthesize new knowledge. They can, of course, replicate a lot of knowledge, but they are not going to create anything interesting.
Ricardo, I want to ask about triggers. Human resources has, all kinds of ramifications. I'm going to bring up one of the darker aspects. I used to work at Xerox in Honolulu, and the human resource department got moved from Honolulu to San Francisco, and they missed a growing problem that ended up in a person going crazy and killing 7 of my coworkers. So that's kind of a dark way of looking at it, but do you think AI is going to help us when we have this turnover in the HR world? You know, the personnel that run HRs, they're going to turn over, and there's going to be gaps in the training, gaps, you know, people miss things. Do you think AI is going to help us avoid those gaps and avoid danger signs? You know, the flags that should be seen, the red flags waving in the wind.
It's all about attention. Like, what do we pay attention to, right? So then, like, we all have, like, that's the magic and the marvelous thing about the internet. Like, you could learn anything. Like, if you decide, I want to learn quantum physics, you can go and just do it. It will take you a different amount of time. Probably if you have an expert, you're going to find out the path to knowing what you need to know faster than if you just stumble into things and try to figure out the path yourself. But then it depends on what you pay attention to. Like, all the resources are there. And like, we have so many open source models in things like Hugging Face, for example. Like, there's like, you could build anything by combining ChatGPT with some expert, with all of what is in YouTube and all the tutorials that are in the internet, with all of the open source models. The problem is, like, what is the most important problem to you today? And how much money do you have? You know, and how much time do you have? So given how much money and time you have, what do you want to pay attention to? And I think that's the question about artificial intelligence. Like, who has the money, who has the time, and what are we paying attention to? So if anyone is willing to pay attention, money, and time to this problem, I think we could solve it. But like, for example, we are now have closed our Series A, and we are a group of 50 people putting attention every day to making people's lives better in the human resources industry. And we have things like gender equality, like racial equalay, like burnout, engagement, turnover, workload coping. Like, we have a lot of metrics that we try to pay attention to. But there are some problems that are very complex. So then we might also need at some point have an aid of someone who specializes further away into like psychiatry or psychology. And then we can maybe connect through an API or something and say like, hey, I'm an HR software. I know my limits. I know what I'm good at. I think this person is outside of my professional scope. And you person who has passed through HIPAA, you person who has passed through all the regulations for health software, maybe you should take this person in, you know? And I'm willing to put from my insurance, I'm willing to put whatever I need to put. So you can now take it on, and you that are an expert and are regulated and can do better than me, here it is this person, you know? Because I don't think, like, we are an HR software. We can only solve so much. And the health industry it's a very complicated industry. There's so much regulation. There's so much responsibility. And we are AI people. So I just want to make people have a better work-life experience. And it's important for us also to know where are we not doctors, and just say like, hey, doctor, I need your help, you know?
And it also comes down to, you know, you're not going to have HR people experts in everything, right? So I'm going to ask my last question. That's, is Erudit paying attention? Are you giving attention to cross-national boundaries HR issues? So like, you know, my favorite example is, I'm going to poke a finger at Curtis. He works for a UK company. So he's got that HR, but he lives in the United States. That's got to be a headache for HR people. And I was just wondering, does Erudit give attention to things like that?
I mean, I'm in Latvia right now. Most of my team is either in San Francisco or in several cities of Spain, and one's in France. Like, people in Erudit are everywhere in the world. So we need to, by design, have an international HR strategy, right? and you have to be aware to all the cultural differences between people, like how much people need to talk to each other, how much people need attention, how much people need you to be like very straight to the point, how much people need you to be like more polite, how much people need you to be like kind, how much people don't like you cutting through the bushes and not like, you need to like personalize your strategy to whoever you are managing. And that's also what we're trying to do. Like we have this new feature that's not still in production, but users will have in the next 3 months. That is, let's say, a copilot for HR, right? Like now everyone has some GPT for their company. Like Stack Overflow just did it, I think, today or yesterday or something, after ChatGPT has been stealing their money from all the questions. I remember since I started programming, everyone looked their responses to any problem in life in code in Stack Overflow. And now everyone looks it in ChatGPT. So now they made their copilot for Stack Overflow. We're doing the same. Like we have our copilot for HR, and then we're trying to handle all these complex, multi-variable, multi-country questions through the copilot.
Right. Well, Ricardo, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, with great shows, time flies. So I want to give you a chance really at the end here to tell little folks at home a little bit more about Erudit, where they can get started, how organizations can get in touch with you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we have our website, erudit.ai. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, but you can just Google erudit.ai and you'll find everything about us.
Fantastic. Thanks again for being here. Well, folks, you have done it again. You sat through another hour of the Best Dang Enterprise podcast in the universe. So definitely tune your podcatcher to Twy. I want to thank everyone who makes this show possible, especially to my amazing co-host, starting at the very own Mr. Brian Chi, who's great to have back on. You can tell the folks at home, Brian, where can people find you? Where can they get in touch with you? And what's coming up in this week?
Right now, I'm not. I'm just miserable. This COVID is horrible. But when I'm actually awake and doing something, I'm throwing a lot onto Twitter. I'm still a Twitter person, even though I think it's going to be called X pretty soon. Who knows? Anyway, I'm ADVNETLAB, Advanced Net Lab on Twitter. But you're also welcome to throw email. So if you've got a show suggestion or a topic suggestion, please feel free to email me. I'm Cheebert, spelled CheeBert @twit.tv. You're also welcome to throw email at twyit@twit.tv, and that'll hit all the hosts. Would love to hear from you, and I'm going to mute myself now.
Thank you, Cheebert. Well, we also have to thank our very Mr. Curtis Franklin. Curtis, what about you? We know you're traveling. Black Hat's coming up. What's going on for you?
Black Hat is coming up, and in the meantime, I've got another piece that will be coming out on omdia.com. I'll be pointing to that from probably LinkedIn as well, and in something that's a little bit unusual, the piece that I'm getting ready to write, which is oddly enough going to be on AI, will be available to everyone on the Omdia site, not just our subscribers. So I'll point to that, let people know when it's out, talking about the importance of having policies in place for AI, because your employees are using them even if you don't have a policy in place. So it's better to get ahead of that if you can. And like I said, in the meantime, I'm getting ready for Black Hat and DEF CON. I've already had a couple of Twyit listeners be in touch, saying they'd love to meet up with me, even if briefly, out in Las Vegas. Happy to do that. They can follow me and send me direct messages on, I suppose it's X now, KG4GWA. I'm on Mastodon, KG4GWA at Mastodon, KG4GWA at mastodon.sdf.org. Getting that particular address still trips me up. Also on LinkedIn at Curtis Franklin. So feel free to hit me up on any of those. Always happy to hear from our listeners.
Thank you, Curtis. Well, we also have to thank you as well. You're the person who drops in each every week to watch and to listen to our show to get your enterprise goodness. We want to make it easy for you to listen and catch up on your enterprise and IT news. So go to our show page right now, twit.tv/Twyat. There you'll find all the amazing back episodes. Of course, we have the show notes, the co-host information, the guest information, of course, those links of the stories that we do during the show. But more importantly, right there, next to those videos, there you go. You get those helpful subscribe and download links, and you support the show. Get your audio version, your video version of your choice. Go ahead and subscribe. Anyone of your podcast applications out there, because we're on all of them. Subscribing to the show definitely helps us support the show. And of course, you want to support the show and the network, you should definitely join Club Twit. That's right. It's a members-only ad-free podcast service with a bonus Twit Plus feed that you can't get anywhere else. It's only $7 a month. That's right. There it is. And it's a lot of great things that come with it. Not only do you have the ad-free, but you also have exclusive access to the Discord server, which has a ton of channels on there. Of course, you can chat with hosts and producers and lots of side discussions. Plus, they also have some amazing bonus content plus special events. That's right. Lots of great events on there. And I'm going to be on there in next month as well. And so definitely join Club Twit, be part of that movement. Go to twit.tv/Club Twit. Now, you should also know that they also offer corporate group plans. That's corporate group plans. That's right. It's a great way to give your entire team access to the ad-free podcast. And you can start at 5 members at a discount rate of just $6 each per month. You can add as many seats as you like. And of course, it's a really great way for your IT departments, your sales teams, your service departments, whoever, to get access to all of our podcasts. And just like that regular membership, you can join the Discord server and get that bonus feed as well. So definitely join and be part of that movement. And also, they have family plans as well. It's just $12 a month. You get 2 seats with that, and it's just $6 for each additional family member. And you get all the advantages of that single plan as well. So lots of options. Definitely check out Club Twit at twit.tv/Club Twit. Now, after you subscribe, definitely impress your family members, your coworkers, your friends with the gift of Twyat, because we talk a lot about some fun tech topics on this show, and I guarantee they find it fun and interesting as well. Keep it on top of the enterprise and IT news. So definitely join with share it with them as well. But after you subscribe, we also do this show live. That's right. We're doing it live right now. live.twit.tv. Check out that website, because that's where all the streams are at. You come see all the behind the scenes, how the pizza's made, all the banter, and all before and after the show. So definitely check out the live stream. If you're going to watch the show live, we also have an infamous IRC channel as well, the Twit Live channel. You can get to it by just going to irc.twit.tv, and they'll pop you right in to the Twit Live channel. So we have lots of great characters in there. Of course, they keep us on our toes, and not only that, they keep us laughing throughout the week. So thank you guys for being there and being part of that movement. Now, if you want to contact me, definitely hit me up. I'm on Twitter, twitter.com/LouMM. There you can post direct messages, whatever, show concepts, show ideas. You want to talk tech, you want to talk about cybersecurity, whatever you want to talk about. I'm big on service design and architecture. I love that. So definitely hit me up on there. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn as well, Louis Meska on LinkedIn. I do a lot of posting on there, a lot of channels, a lot of conversations, even some live stuff on there. So definitely check out LinkedIn. And of course, I'm on Mastodon as well, LouMM at twit.social. You can definitely hit me up there as well. Now, if you want to know what I do during my normal work week at Microsoft, you can check out developers.microsoft.com/office. There it is. It's the latest, greatest ways for you to customize your office experience to make it more productive for you. And of course, if you have Microsoft 365 and you pop open Excel, check out that Automate tab. That's right. It's the new tab in there, and it really helps you automate your processes and your analyses within Excel. And of course, it generates scripts for you, which you can automate on Power Automate. You can create different connectors to different services and integrate data. It's really a lot of fun, and it really makes it more powerful for you. So definitely check that out. I want to thank everyone who makes this show possible, especially to Leo and Lisa. They continue to support This Week in Enterprise Tech each and every week, and we couldn't do the show without them. So thank you for all their support over the years. And of course, thank you to all the engineers and staff at Twit. They make it possible for us. And of course, thank you to Mr. Brian Chi one more time. He's not only our co-host, but he's also our tireless producer. He does all the show bookings and the plannings for the show. And of course, we couldn't do the show without him. Thank you, Chibert, for all your support. Of course, before we sign out, we have to thank our editor for today, because they are going to make us look good after the fact. So thank you for cutting out all my mistakes. And of course, thank you to our TD for today, Mr. Victor. Victor, it's always great seeing you. Any special events coming up this week for Twit?
I was just going to mention the one about you, but it's not on our
Ooh,
check out
secret.
on our Discord Club Twit events on our Discord. It shows some of our upcoming events, like Ant has a live photo critique on August 4th.
I'm looking forward to that.
I think I'm going to submit something there. And
nice.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Is he going to have to be nice? Hopefully he's not. Hopefully he's still not nice.
He still wouldn't be. He's not obligated to, but yeah. And then there's one that we're all looking forward to, a fireside chat with Daniel Suarez and Hugh Howey, two great authors. So that's going to be in September, I believe.
Fantastic.
So yeah, look out for that.
Looking forward to those.
I had to go to this shot because it has that cold Dutch tilt like in the old Batman show. So
very cool. Very cool. Thanks, Victor. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Thank you for support. And I'm Louis Maresca, just reminding you, if you want to know what's going on in the enterprise, just keep quiet.
It's midweek, and you really want to know even more about the world of technology.
So you should check out Tech News Weekly, the show where we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news.
It's the biggest news. We talk with the people writing the stories that you're probably reading. We also talk between ourselves about the stories that are getting us even more excited about tech news this week.
So if you're excited, well, then join us. Head to twit.tv/TNW to subscribe.